Hey y'all, I just want to talk to you for just a moment. This is going to be a highly charged political video. Just kidding, it's not that serious. I did want to talk to you about something though that's been kind of bothering me here lately. And what I've noticed is in this nation, what we have this whiplash that takes place every single time that we enter a new election cycle and somebody else gets elected. And then you've got the Democrats on this side absolutely fearing that you've got Republicans that are going to take power, and Republicans are preparing themselves in the event that Democrats take power. And so this happens over and over and over again. And so what I would call this is this fear stage of hoping that your guy is in the Supreme Court of the judicial branch as the court of last resort. So just in case, at least we have Amy Coney Barrett. Thank goodness she's in there. Or perhaps maybe you're a Democrat. You don't know what you're going to do now that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is gone. And so what ends up happening is we go through this whiplash and we have this draw, this hope that we place our futures in that the Supreme Court of the United States of America is a court of last resort, and it's going to keep those tyrants from infringing upon my constitutionally guaranteed rights. And so we prepare ourselves every single time that we get to a new election cycle, every single time that somebody in the wrong party gets elected, we go through this process. And the problem is that we need to start challenging whether or not we even know how that whole system works. We trust that the Supreme Court is going to be a check and a balance against the legislative branch and the executive branch. And yet most of us don't know anything about the courts of original jurisdiction, where those cases start. So whenever I hear people crying out for justice, and they were so upset, and I can't believe so-and-so got elected, and I can't believe anybody can vote for someone that stupid, and we hear all of these things take place, we have this dismay, and then we have this hope that the judicial branch, I guess we're going to have to hope that they're going to do something. And so I wonder if there is a check and a balance against the legislative and executive branches. Who's checking to make sure that the judicial branch does their job? Who is the one who's checking to make sure that our rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution are truly upheld in a court of original jurisdiction? What happens when we have the inability to fully understand whether or not we've even been deprived of our constitutionally guaranteed rights? For example, you have the right of a fair and meaningful hearing. That's part of due process. So what happens when you're deprived of that? Who is making sure that judges are competent enough to make these conclusions of law? Who's making sure that they don't become despotic? How do we make sure that they don't become tyrannical? If nobody else is watching the judicial branch, how do we make sure that this safe haven, this hope that we have, that our rights are going to still be secure, even though the wrong party got in office? How do we even know that? If there's nobody else checking the judicial branch, if it's policing itself, in what way does it do it? The American people couldn't even make it out of the first round in courts of original jurisdiction. You wouldn't be able to just go in there and present your claims, because you don't even know what they are. You don't even know where to find it. You got to put all that hope and all that trust. For what reason? In the judicial branch. There has to come a point in time in which we challenge and we question whether or not we have enough knowledge and we have been participating with enough power to truly even know what these laws are that are being passed by either one political party or the other. And sometimes we get so busy arguing over the headlines that we hear and the headlines that we see, and we really get to it that this is what my political party believes, and this is what we're pushing, and it's going to be great for everybody. But you don't actually know what's in the bill. You don't know how that particular law would affect your fellow man. You don't know if it would be detrimental to your neighbor. if you do not know, then how do we even conclude that any of us have any control over the direction that this country is being taken? How do we know that we have some sort of control over the direction and the proper drafting of these laws? How do we know that our will is being executed rather than substituted in the legislature? How do we know that they're representing our rights, not using our rights to represent their will? I don't actually know the answer to that question. And sweetie, you got a long ways to go before your personal claim that affects your personal rights and your personal family. You got a long ways to go before you make it to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. You got courts of original jurisdiction. We have appellate courts. We have the Supreme Courts of the state. We have, varying appellate courts in the federal districts. So I don't really understand why we have this hope that all this justice is just going to come flowing from the judicial branch if we can't even pinpoint exactly who's responsible for making sure that they do their job. The judicial branch is supposed to make sure that the legislative and the executive branch does their job. But who's in charge of the judicial branch? So I just wanted you to consider not whether or not you want to be a Democrat or a Republican, but whether or not you wanted to consider whether you have the ability to recognize the lack of knowledge, the lack of learning that millions of people are facing right now, in order to properly understand how your representative government works and how the courts of justice work. I mean, sure, you hear the cases that make it to the Supreme Court of the United States, but how many other cases are there issues? How many other cases can we affirmatively say, man, thank goodness we had a judge which would execute the law the way that it's supposed to be executed? So I just want you to take for just a moment the opportunity to consider your rights of free will, your right to learn for yourself what you want to see in your life, the direction that you want this country to go in. Because if it's 1,400 pages long that's being introduced, a bill that's 1,400 pages long that's being introduced, that didn't get created overnight. That didn't get created in a couple of weeks. And that didn't get created because of one legislator. There are teams of attorneys that are drafting that law. So where did they get the idea to draft that law? Where did they get the idea to put all of these other laws within a particular bill that seemingly are unrelated to the entire purpose of the bill? Where did they get that idea? And when do we get to participate in that? So I just wanted to propose that, just throw that out there, that if we're having to rely on a court of last resort in order to feel good about the situation whenever an opposing party comes to power in the legislature or in the executive branch, then we have a very serious problem, because there's not a lot of people that can make it to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. So we're going to have to start making some decisions about our lives and what we're learning and what information that we're taking in now, not later. Okay? So just engage in free will. Engage in the right to think for yourself. Love you guys. Bye.